Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA. Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Coaching Youth Hoops Podcast.
They're playing basketball.
Basketball. Here's our hosts, Steve Collins. And Bill Flitter.
Hey coaches, welcome to Coaching Youth Hoops. Before we jump in today, I just want to make sure you know what's going on. Coach Bill and I, over the last couple months, have been running an on-demand coaches clinic. We're going to just kind of pull the curtain back, let you kind of hear a little bit of what's inside of those as far as handouts and videos and all that stuff. If you want to see what's available, go over to basketballcoachesclinic.com and check it out. Let's head off to the podcast.
Welcome, coaches, to another episode of Coaching Youth Hoops. Today, we have a special guest, Coach Patrick Conlon. He's from the New Jersey area. He reached out to us with a question that I thought, you know what? There's probably a lot of coaches out there with the same types of questions. So I thought, Patrick, let's get Patrick on the podcast today. So, Patrick, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to, get your questions answered, but also help other coaches with similar situations. So before we get started, Patrick, tell us a little bit about your coaching history, what you're coaching now, and we'll dive into any questions that you have.
Yeah, well, Coach, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you taking the time to hopefully help our team win a few games this season. So I'm Patrick. I am a assistant coach actually on a middle school team, or for a middle school team. Head coach, myself, and one other assistant coach, we're all just buddies, and we heard this team through kind of the grapevine. One of my buddies goes to church in the diocese that the school's in, and heard they didn't have a coach, that there was going to be no team. So it just so happened the time it started, I had a little free time, and so we got super into it. And last season was a disaster. We lost every game. Our players had played like on average 2 or 3 seasons before that. They'd all had like 2 seasons off. There were 1 or 2 kids who might have gone to a few camps in the summer. But we were teaching them how to catch the ball without shuffling their feet and traveling every time. So it was, we had an issue. Sorry, I'm hearing a knock at my door. It's nothing.
It happens.
So anyway, at first we're just focusing on skills. So that was last season. Just is what it is. We turned the page on that. We're on to this season. And we're in preseason, and the skills have improved dramatically. We've got a few new players. We can generally dribble the ball, pass the ball, shoot the ball at a moderately successful clip. The individual skills are there. Undefended layups generally are pretty routine now, where like last season that was not necessarily the case. So we're very pleased that the team today is better than it ever was last year. Where we're struggling is coaches this season is, okay, now we have the skills. Our guys can catch passes. Our passes generally arrive at their target. How do we take the step from, okay, when they're not defended, they know how to, rip through and cut past the defender. Then we get to the game, even in just scrimmages, it's not happening. We fall back on the same things we were doing last year, which is one guy dribbles in a little bit, puts his head down, doesn't get anywhere, picks up the ball, pivots around, hopefully gets lucky, throws it to a guy in the wing who takes a contested jump shot, and then we start running back on defense. We do all this practice of, we try to break down the cuts and passing and all this, and it just it falls apart in the game. And what's frustrating to us, and what we've spent the most time thinking about how to work on as coaches, is players kind of just don't have that, I want to win, winning is important to me mentality. It seems like they're out here, they got a few nice guys on the team, wonderful, it's a fun time, but no one really seems to care if we win or lose, except the coach is. So we're trying to figure out a combination of how to put them in a position to make smart decisions on the basketball court, play at a higher level versus just being able to shoot, pass, and dribble, and how to make them want to win. We're we don't have guys diving on the floor. They don't really seem to care that much. We had a few games last season where we were really close to winning. The crowd was into it, and they played with fire, but we can't get the fire into them.
And what age group?
We have been unsuccessful at getting the fire in. Sorry?
What age group specifically, or grade? You said it was middle school, but are you all?
Oh, yeah, so we've got it's mostly 7th graders on the team right now. We've got a few 8th graders, and then we've got 2 6th graders on the roster, but we're at least one of them is possibly just not going to play. He's just this is his first season ever playing, and it might just be a safety issue. Yeah. But yeah, and then right now we've got 2 players who are only limited at practice because they're finishing up a football season. So we are looking forward to their return, but we're a little sparse right now.
Yeah. How many total kids on the team with the football players?
8, including the football players. We have 8.
Oh, okay. So you don't even have 5.
Yeah, we're a little bare bones. Yeah. I sent a message to the parents a few weeks ago saying, if you know anyone else who wants to play. Yeah. And it's funny because the girls team, we share a practice gym with them, and the girls team is totally full. They're in contention for the county championship.
Holy cow.
They've got a great coach, and we work with him a little bit. He runs administrative point for us because, he has a daughter in the school that makes him a little more invested in the administrative side.
That's one, on the girls' side, I coach a lot of girls, so that's exciting to hear because it's usually the opposite problem, right? Where there's more boys team and less girls, so that's awesome. Okay, so why do you think? Let's start at the bare bones. Why do you think that's the case, that you don't have a big 7th and 8th grade boys team, and you have 8 players, and you're talking 3 grades, right? Why do you think that is? And then contrast that to, why is the girls program so healthy?
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know. I don't know the school environment well enough, and that's just a disadvantage of not working in the school or having a kid in the school. It's strange because it's Hudson County. It's like a Catholic school. Hudson County Catholic schools are famous for good basketball. There's a basketball culture. Last season, actually, we played against Bobby Hurley's grandchild. Oh, wow. He has a different last name, but really, it's funny. I didn't know who he was, and all I knew is this freaking kid would steal the ball he must have had 15 steals in the game, and I hated this kid. And then after the game, he up so polite, shakes each of the coaches' hands, and is like, "Hey, you guys really the last time we played you. This is such a world of difference. You guys keep it up. You guys are working so hard." The kid
said this to you?
The kid said this to me, and I'm like, I still hate the kid.
Yeah. So that might be something to find out.
Yeah.
And that's, it sounds like you're doing a lot of work to try to get the kids better, and you just might not have the athletes there. They might be doing another sport, right? For a lot of times for us here in California, like specifically where I live, the girls are off playing water polo and volleyball year round, and they're complete athletes that should be on the basketball court, but they're playing those other two sports, and there just isn't time for basketball. So and the reason there wasn't the activities for them to participate in basketball, right, at a young age. And now that's shifted because of me, but it is shifting. But they didn't have the opportunities, right? Where volleyball, soccer, water polo, they're in the pool. This is crazy. I mean, the mother was just telling me, they're in the pool for 2 hours. They get pool time at 7 p.m. Okay, it's not New Jersey weather in the winter, but it's 46 degrees.
Still not pleasant. Yeah.
Still not pleasant, right? But they're out there 2 hours a night, 4 days a week. And this is a third grade girl.
Wow.
I wish I could do that.
Yeah, the swimmers are different, man.
Yeah.
My younger siblings are all swimmers, and I think it's because the water is a little lower impact, so you can.
It is, yeah.
Push
and
yourself
with basketball,
harder, but
basketball's a contact sport, right?
All these sports are such a
exactly. Well, that's true. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I think we got a slight little lag here, so maybe that's what's happening. But let's dig into your problem specifically, though. So I think that's one area you need to look at. If you want to continue with this program at this school, you need to build a basketball culture with the boys. I would dig in with the girls coach, since you know him and you're friendly. Why is that full? What did you do? Yeah. What has happened over the years? And then find out where the boys are. How many kids in the school? Do you have any idea?
That's a good question. I'm going to Google that.
Yeah, so something to look into.
Yeah, I'd say it's
the pool that you're polling from.
It's not a very large school. I was there. We went into like the lunchroom last season. There couldn't have been more than 70 kids there, but that's just one. So I'd say maybe like 200 kids total.
Okay, so that's one thing. That's more long term. So short term, how do you motivate the kids? You have to find out what triggers your group. And what I mean by that is think about it from their perspective. And I'll use an example. A video game. Okay. Think about that. For them, maybe basketball's a video game. A lot of kids play video games, right? How can you challenge them that way? Okay. So make it a game within the game, which is, okay, today we're going to get, or in practice, we got to make X number of shots in Y number of time, right? And it's not a punishment if they don't hit it. There's consequences, and you can have them decide on what those consequences are, and then you can agree to those. So, for example, like last night, I had a group of girls, and we have this layup drill that we do, and they have to hit 27 layups in 2 minutes. Okay, and it's a full team, and they're running full court. So 27 layups, and it's one person two people at a time running kind of in a circle. Anyway.
Okay.
So if they don't, so what they do is they have to run the full length of the court, the difference. So last night, for whatever reason, they normally hit 27, they hit 21. Okay. So they had to run, back and forth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, for the difference, right? Okay. So we just, they're all trying to hit that 27 because they don't want to do any more running because they just ran for 2 minutes solid, right? Trying to hit those layups, right? Or we have this other drill where we call it Queen of the Court, and it is a boxing out drill, and it's 2-on-2 continuous rebounding you can either look at it, is it a box out drill? Is it a rebounding drill? Is it a layup under pressure drill? It's whatever you want to emphasize. And it's first team to 3. Okay. And if you win, if you stay in for 3 consecutive rounds, you're queen of the court. And now you're immune to any of the other consequences throughout practice. So in the layup drill, now you're out. Like so those 6 you don't have to do, right?
Wow. Okay.
But actually, what ends up happening if you build the right culture, they'll run it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to build the right culture to do that. That takes some time. So it's little things like that. You can help them find that extra gear, if you will, and motivate them to compete and want to compete. And you can do that same thing in a game. Okay, we have to get, don't ever put points in a game, but we have to get X number of stops, right? Or X number of stops in a row. Call it a turkey, right? Get 3 stops in a row. Hey, we got a turkey today, right? Have fun with it. And literally, maybe keep a board with turkey symbol, turkey stickers on it. You can show them something physical.
Right. Kind of like gamify, like, hey, it's not, I get you all want to win this game. Everyone understands it's better to win than to lose. But like winning also is getting the loose ball that was a 50-50 ball. Yeah.
Reward them. Whatever you want to reward them for, you set up a reward system for that. And I say reward system only for the sake of me talking to you. I don't know if I would call it that, but goals maybe is better. And see if they can achieve the goals, those particular goals for the season, and then per game. And then just do something like, okay, look, we're looking for, I'm just throwing stuff out. X number of rebounds. We need, 2 turkeys per game. And, we need to win 50% of the loose balls. If we can achieve that and we do that, let's say if you have 12 games, if we can do that in 7 games this season, I'll buy you ice cream. Right?
Halliday presents in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated weed whacker guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength, Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
That's your money saying it's time for a McDonald's run. Because with new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. Like buy a 6-piece McNuggets and add a McChicken for just $1. Your money says let's go. Get more than you expect with new McValue. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Yeah.
Something, whatever, it doesn't have to be, I was talking to another coach. He do you have Chick-fil-A out there? No, I don't think so.
Oh, we got Chick-fil-A out here.
Okay, yeah. So Chick-fil-A, he bought him Chick-fil-A if they achieve some sort of goal, right? So he took the whole team to Chick-fil-A, which was really nice. But anyway, so if you kind of gamify it a little bit, that might help get that, find that gear that you're looking for and that competitive. But you also it has to start in practice. You have to make practice. They have to compete in practice. Tell me how your practice is structured. How long is it? Walk me through kind of a typical practice at a high level of what you guys do.
Yeah, so we've got 3 practices, 2 hours each. So 3 days a week, 2 hours. We definitely have got
time.
Yeah, we're sharing our practice court. The school itself doesn't have a gym, so we share the practice court with the girls team. Okay. So we generally run the first 40 minutes or so of practice. We'll do on the full court, we'll do like the 3v2v1 drill and like the 3-man weave, stuff that you really do need the full court for. And we'll just work the girls in. And then because the line can get a little long, the limited amount of courts, we've got them running suicides and doing burpees on the side. That was something we did not do enough conditioning last year. So we are rectifying that this year for sure. So I'd say that's about the first 40 minutes.
Do you have core? Is
Then-
it just the 2 baskets, or do you have this way as well? Is it only?
We do have this way as well.
Okay,
So
okay.
when we get into the individual work, we've got 3 baskets.
Okay.
So we've got, like kind of the half court, full court thing, and then one of like the main glass basket.
Okay.
So that's kind of the first 40 minutes. We're trying to work in condition. So the way we structure practice is not my favorite. I like did a practice plan where I was like trying to break it down by minute as best I could, just so that like we can basically what I want. And like the head coach is like, nah, this is too complicated. And I'm like, it doesn't, like the actual number of minutes doesn't matter. I just want us to go in. So I have enforced my vision of like, we're going in with points of emphasis.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it to like 3 things. And so conditioning has always been one of them so far this season, where that is a main point of emphasis. And then what we're trying to do is get them to make decisions. So we've been trying to do, we've been doing a lot of drills with like, catch the ball at the top of the key, and based on how the coach defender plays you, you have to either go to the right of him or to the left of him, and it's a rip through. So sometimes it's a rip through and jab and come back, or depending on how the coach is playing you, you should rip through and go around him. So we've been doing that a lot and trying to just like do things quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big, I try to do a lot of where like I'm the one passing, because we have a little bit of difficulty controlling our passes sometimes in terms of catching them. So I'm trying to like put a little extra spice. And it's like, it's okay if you drop it. Like this is, do it when it's really hard. And then hopefully in the game, our point guard is going to deliver it much softer and right in your bread basket.
Yeah.
So we try to do like, basically it's cutting, it's layups, it's closeout drills. And then what we have been doing the last 2 weeks is we're trying to do a slow motion version of our offense for 30, 40 minutes at the end of practice to just get them comfortable with spacing. And okay, we always are emphasizing you got to cut all the time. You should always be either arriving to a destination or thinking about where you're going to cut or screen next. And they get that. They can repeat it back to us. But then when we get in the game, like, why aren't you guys cutting?
Yeah. And, we had a little conversation off air too. And, one of the things that you said that I hear often is, we're teaching, right? And we're showing them how to do an offense or what have you, whatever it is, defense, and the execution in the game isn't there. So to ease your mind, it's pretty typical, right? It's pretty typical, especially with the way you described your team, though, a lot of inexperienced players. It will continue. If you continue coaching in high school, it still continues there, right? So it's just one of those. It's just one of those things, and how you speed that cycle up is actually just publishing a paper on this, paper, book, ebook, whatever, to help coaches is how you structure your practice, your drills, and everything else that helps kids learn a little bit faster, quicker. So let's step back on the practice structure itself, and then I'll lead into like drill down into some of the specifics. So practice structure. I did away, and I'll explain what I mean by this. I did away with conditioning for conditioning's sake. Okay. So kids are never doing, and again, I'm not saying it's wrong. For me, this worked because of the limited time I have, and you still have limited time. You have 6 hours, right? Now, right. I know some people, and we're hearing groans in the background. 6 hours. I wish I had 6 hours in the right. Some people have a lot less. So to alleviate, again, 6 hours isn't it really truly isn't a lot of time, but you're blessed with that amount of time. Every drill we do is a conditioning drill.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say on your 2-hour practice, most of that is conditioning. You just work it in, right? And how do you do that? As you set, again, like I said, X number of shots and Y number of time. Now I understand, right? You can't, you're going to have maybe, depending on certain days, you'll have one day where, we're teaching a lot, right? Today's a teaching day. And, you don't want to, you need to slow it down. They're not conditioning like you'd like because you are teaching. I get that, right? So you got to balance that a little bit, but go into have the mindset of every drill we do has got to be a conditioning drill, so we can do both of those same, And the other thing is, if they're doing, because of the way your practices are structured, and you have, you're sharing this gym space, and some people are off to the sides, they should be doing conditioning with a ball in their hand, right? Not just burpees. I'm going to say burpees are bad, but reserve the burpees for when they don't hit their goal in practice, right? Oh, you guys got 10 burpees because you missed your layups, right?
Right.
Here, if they're conditioning, and again, you have to do it, you have to set that up and be very specific on what you want them to do off the sidelines, and, push them and come up with drills. There's drills that you can do where you are running on the sideline if they're, you have that set of kids over there. So look at some of that, but get a ball in their hand and they're conditioning at the same time instead of just burpees or sprints like that.
Right. Okay. I like that.
Now, also practice structure. So what I do is, and it's really helped me over the years to make sure that I cover everything. And I've said it, several times on the podcast as well. I typically do start off with some sort of conditioning drill in the beginning, but they have a ball in their hand or they're ball handling. Sometimes stationary, sometimes movement. Like we had this great drill yesterday that they got full court movement, ball handling, and it was it's the first time I did it. I was experimenting with it, and it worked out really well. And so they were ball handling, they were getting reps full court and ball handling at the same time. And it wasn't just, crossover dribbles full court, right? I was a little bit more involved in that. Actually, I'll share that. I'll remind myself because I really like the drill.
Great. Thank you.
And then, so that's how I start out. Then it depends on the order of the day that you want to do this or what you need most of. But then it's offense, transition to offense, defense, and transition to defense. So I break it up into those because you're in one of those four things throughout an entire game. So I want to make sure that the emphasis for, let's say, the next 15 minutes, let's say we pick offense, it is offense. Now, you can take that same exact drill, add defense to it, and now call it your defensive drill, and we're going to do this for 15 minutes, and that's the emphasis.
Right.
Does that make sense? So
where like contested mid-range jumper is a drill for the shooter, and it's a drill for the closeout man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, but in the first, let's take that exact drill. So the first time you do it, it's all about the offense making X number of shots. So now you might move the defense back a little bit and where they close out. So the offense for your skill level are getting their shots up, but it's still somewhat contested. And then the kids they're getting conditioning on the run, right? Because they have to close out quick sprint and you're showing them how to do that. Then now you're in the defensive portion of your practice plan. And now you could do that same drill or similar drill, or on a different day, you just emphasize the defense a little bit more. So you close the gap. And then you say, okay, this is how you do a defensive closeout, and you're more focused on the defensive closeout versus the offense. When you're trying to get the shots, you show them, well, how do you receive a ball? How do you have a quick release, etc. Right? So they're doing the same drill with just a different emphasis on it, depending on what you want to do, right? Or what you need more of, or the day you're working on. So anyway, if you look at one of my practice plans, they are chunked that way: offense, defense, transition to offense, and transition to defense. And I don't have a lot of drills in those sections.
Yeah.
But if you imagine the constraints in, that I put on those drills, so then think about it as a grid. One drill could look 9 different ways, but it's the same drill. So I do not want to spend my time in practice teaching drills, right? That's a waste of time, right? So I put a different emphasis on the same drill, or a different time or number of shots made, or one day it might be 4 versus 3 and the next day it's 3 versus 4. Same drill, right? Depends what I want to emphasize. So that way you can make sure that you're covering what's my offense and set, what are we doing on defense, what are we doing in transition to defense, and what are we doing in transition to offense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does make a lot of sense. Yeah. And you hit all 4 of those at every practice?
Yeah, and some of them more so than others. Like maybe in transition to offense, I might do a 10-minute drill just as a reminder, right?
Yeah.
Or, maybe on the first weeks of practice, they might be even because I have to implement and put everything in with the team. And then they play a few games and I'm like, wow, we suck in transition, right? So, hey, what? We need to figure this out. So I'll put more time in transition.
Right.
Okay. So then we just adjust those times. Yep. Everything is timed. You were right on the right track. So, everything is timed 5 to 8 minutes max per drill. And if they're not getting it, or if it's just, I don't know, like you're working on your offense and it's just not coming together, you got to say, okay, that's on me. I got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how I can relate this to the kids because they're not getting it. I'm the adult in the room, right? So even if you say, yes, you know what, they're inexperienced. Well, obviously you're not talking to them because they're all right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're not understanding your vocabulary. And I will emphasize this. One of the bigger game changers that I had recently, and I've been doing this now for 15 years, which, again, I love it because I'm always learning. I never had literally like a vocab sheet, and I did it this year because I got these questions like, stuff that, so I started with this team in May. Here it was August and September, and they're raising their hand about something that we've been doing all along. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a second. Well, why are you just now?
You already knew that.
Yeah. Why are you just now asking that? I figured you understood and a lot of times they don't understand. And that's why you're not able to execute in a game.
Yeah.
And they're afraid to ask because they don't want to, one, it's like, it's August. And we started talking about this in May, and they're like, yeah, I should probably already know that, but I don't understand the word he's using. Like there was something, it was dive to the basket. That's what they didn't understand. Dive to the basket. And I kept on saying it from May to August, dive to the basket, right? And I would show them what dive to the basket was, but it didn't click.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would say roll to the basket. I mean, technically a roll and dive for all the basketball junkies is different, but I would interchange those two. And so they were like, is that something different? Is that the same thing? So, okay, we took time out and I said, let's have a common vocabulary. So I created a vocabulary sheet. Here's all the things I say. And if something new comes up, they say, hey, coach, add that to the vocabulary list. I'm like, oh, right. So I add it to the vocabulary list. And they have access to the vocabulary list I give them. And these are, by the way, these are 7th and 8th grade girls. So it's the same age group you're working with. So they're mature enough. They have access to my playbook online. Now, I don't expect, and I know they don't all go in and look at it, but that's besides the point. We talk about it. But now, it's funny because I mean, if you come to one of my practices and with me for a while, you understand how our environment is, and it's very welcoming, open, and I always talk about mistakes. Mistakes are okay. I make mistakes, and I talk about after a game, sometimes the mistakes I made, I should have called a timeout, or I missed that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, whatever, right? So they know I'm human as well. And so if they make a mistake, it's okay to talk about it. So with all that said, I make sure that it's okay to ask questions and make mistakes, and that everybody has those questions. Be the brave one to raise their hand. And anytime someone does that, we always do 2 claps. So I said, hey, Patrick, that's a great question. 2 claps for Patrick, right? That's going to make him feel, and everybody gets energized with the 2 claps and whatever else, right? So we do that as well. So they do ask those questions, okay? So common vocabulary, structure, practice, have fewer drills, put constraints on those drills, and emphasize whatever you're trying to emphasize in those drills. Well, probably, 1, you'll get through a lot more. The depth of knowledge that the kids will have will be a lot more.
Yeah.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.